James O'Brien on LBC.
10:33. Playing the devil's advocate, James, could you find a junior doctor who doesn't believe that the new contract would impact upon patient safety? Darren, your wish is my command. I'll keep one phone line free for precisely that. It doesn't even have to be a junior doctor. It could be a fully qualified one, although junior doctor itself is a bit of a misnomer because it conjures up in our eyes an image of Doogie Howser. Doesn't it? Junior doctors can easily be in their 40s. They're just, they're training. They haven't completed their specialties yet. It's just, I think even that added to the rhetoric. But the simple enough question is this: why wouldn't you believe them? When they say, we are going on strike, we are deliberately endangering patient safety because if we don't, we think patient safety will be endangered even more. That's the logic. That's all it's about. Anyone else telling you it's about money or telling you about this, they're lying to you. It is doctors who believe the new contract will endanger us. Why wouldn't you believe them or trust them? I suppose one answer to that is because you think they're wrong, in which case tell me why. Kishan is in Lincoln. Kishan, what would you like to say?
Morning, James. Thanks very much for having me on. I think you said something which was music to my ears in terms of said don't listen to the BMA and don't talk to the Department of Health, just chat to a doctor. When I work in A&E, I see patients coming in all the time and they don't know what's going on because there's so much misinformation from both sides, but they still trust doctors more than politicians and they just want to talk to doctors about it. One slightly concerning point is some trusts don't really want doctors talking to patients. That's always political. You mustn't talk about that. Don't involve your patients. Of course we're going to involve our patients. And we're getting thousands of doctors that have seen, quite frankly, some of the ways that this has been handled by the BMA has been suboptimal. Absolutely. I mean, the leader, Dr. Johan Malawana, going out saying, yes, he thinks this is a great contract, sign it. And then there was a lot of prominent media junior doctors kind of pushing people to say yes and sign the contract, scaremongering, this is the best you're going to get, or who knows.
Well, that might be right, though. That might not be scaremongering.
They might be right, but I think the situation was that, we've got this situation where patient safety is going to be jeopardised.
Why? Tell people why. You heard Paul. Paul sums up a lot of people's position at the moment. He's swimming in a sea of lies and misinformation, and he wants to be able to trust people. Why will patient safety be affected?
Okay, so basically Jeremy Hunt and the Department of Health have said that they want a truly 7-day NHS, which any of your listeners will know. If they're sick, if they're unwell, they can go to a hospital 24 hours a day and get emergency care.
Of course.
What the 7-day NHS they're actually talking about is getting elective services that will be very profitable to private companies run at weekends. There was one article that Jeremy Hunt came out and said, well, actually, I don't even know if on Sundays there's going to be that much take-up for this elective service from GPs and from other people. So they're basically trying to spread 5 days' worth of staff across 7 days' worth of delivering a service. And doctors are saying, well, hold on a minute, this is not safe, there's going to be problems with that.
And how accurate is it to say that the current rotas are already stretched, that running a 5-day operation is already close to breaking point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you have 6 doctors and you're 3 doctors down, it just means the 3 doctors that are left have to work double as hard and carry on the work that their colleagues would do otherwise. So, yeah, there's lots of rota gaps. There are lots of problems with staffing, not just doctors, for nurses. And the other thing that's concerning is I have a lot of European nursing colleagues that are absolutely petrified that they're about to be kicked out of the country as a result of this Brexit vote. And let's not forget, this is something that's happened already because I think it was when Theresa May was Home Secretary, she changed the Tier 2 visa restrictions for Indian doctors and said that they needed to have something like, 35 or 40 grand in a bank account for them to be allowed to stay. So that the whole NHS is at breaking point, and this is the straw that's going to break the camel's back.
And then, so my analysis that you are endangering patients by going on strike because you honestly believe that by not going on strike and accepting this contract, you would endanger them even more ad infinitum, forever.
Spot on. And I think if you have a situation where the NHS, looking at the moment, the NHS is the most efficient system in the world. I was in Cardiff interviewing Professor Sir Mansell Aylward, who's the chair of the Bevan Commission, because we're making a documentary about the NHS. And, he's saying that in Cardiff, they put this contract in via, discussion and talking to the doctors, talking to the patients, talking to the BMA. and they don't have this abrasive factor, which unfortunately is Jeremy Hunt. You've seen him on Sky this morning, you've seen him on BBC. He's got a couple of dodgy tells in terms of if he was playing poker, I think a lot of doctors have worked out how to beat his hand because he looks to the side, you can tell he's not being honest. He's off, when he's kind of pushed off script by Eamon Holmes, and the various other people that are interviewing him, I think people are coming to see that this is just an absolute sham, and people are sick of platitudes and sound bites from politicians, and they actually
well, you say that. Some people are sick of platitudes and sound bites from politicians. Some people are swallowing them for breakfast every day. It just depends whether they like whether the platitudes and sound bites endorse their own prejudices. But I think you're right. Intelligent thinking people should be running out of patients with platitudes and sound bites. Can I ask you I don't know if this is a personal question or a professional one. I'm not going to ask you to look at my bunions or anything like that. The story that came out earlier this month about NHS investigation, a Department of Health, an internal confidential Department of Health inquiry into whether this was workable, and it concluded this was undertaken specifically for Jeremy Hunt and other ministers in late July. And it was done by senior civil servants undertaking a proper analysis of that totemic pledge in the manifesto to provide 7-day service, and it concluded that there is too few staff and too little money. So as a doctor who deals in diagnostic techniques and deals in facts generally, when you encounter this, how do you? I mean, because I'm a journalist, I deal with this every day. It's the opposite of medicine. This is conclusive proof that the Department of Health has found it to be unworkable, and yet the Secretary of State for Health is going around the studios this morning saying that it's great. How do you process that as a doctor?
I mean, I can tell you exactly how I processed it, and on my Twitter account, I'm not sure if I can give it out.
Go on, why not?
At Dr. Kishan Rees.
There you go. If you've got any problems with your bunions, get in touch with Kishan. At Dr. Kishan Rees, REES. Go on.
The pinned tweet is exactly how I responded to that. And the funny thing is I put that out half an hour before Channel 4 broke their story about 7-day scam and 7-day cover-up. It's, as doctors, we've been politically not necessarily very involved, and we've stood back and thought, let the politicians, let them be able to do this, because that's their job, they're the professionals. But when you repeatedly see people lying, and even now this morning on BBC, he's saying, this document that I've put out, I've asked my officials to look at the risks, and I'd want them to look at the risks, as is any government policy. They didn't do that with Brexit, though, did they? So they come out and they say that they're doing this, and at the end of the day, that was taken off the front page by a ridiculous story like Richard Branson leaking some CCTV footage, which frankly, everybody.
Now you brought Corbyn into it. Brexit, Corbyn. This is fantastic. You're going for the bingo card of news. But the other side of my question, the reason I was a little reluctant to ask it, and you may not want to answer.
No.
Is the patients. These are the people you treat, and the idea that they can be, and I don't know, we need to find a new language to describe people who like being ignorant. So they're running the world at the moment. They choose to look at a story, or maybe they're just not aware of it, but let's focus on the people who are. They know that the Department of Health has drawn up its own research into this proposal that says we haven't got the bodies or the money, and yet they're still siding with the Secretary of State who says we need to do it. What do you think of them?
Blame them. I don't think you can blame them, okay, because up until November 2015, I was media naive, and I believed everything that they said in the papers, and it's only when you see somebody lying about something that you're an expert in, and I wouldn't claim myself to be an expert, but I work in health, I work in healthcare day in, day out, and then when you start seeing people saying, weekend mortality, and you actually look at the papers and you realise, well, that's not, they're defining a weekend as Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It'd be remiss of me to kind of blame them, and I think what we must do is we must chat to them, we must get involved. That's why your point that you said, don't listen to the BMA, don't listen to the Department of Health, just chat to the doctor. There's 60,000 of us who are all fairly eloquent and will kind of discuss with people any questions you want to ask, we'll answer. We've started doing a series of live...
Not during surgery, I just want to stress, the GPs are overworked enough without people turning up for a political chat at surgery tomorrow.
No, not during surgery, of course. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we've gone into medicine because we love caring for people. These are the brightest kids in the year. If they wanted to go off and make money, they would go off and be lawyers or bankers or, whatever. So to say it's about money, it's not about money. And just quickly, I mean, an interesting thing that you might like to hear about the BMA is obviously I set up a little kind of social media broadcaster, and I advised them at the roadshow that they did. They said that, this WhatsApp leak, we've decided not to disclose this WhatsApp leak. So Sean Linton at the Health Service Journal has around 1,000 pages of WhatsApp leak. Who has leaked this? We're completely unsure. Okay, and I advised them, and I said to the BMA, I said, look, there's this WhatsApp leak. You've got it. They've got it. They can release it whenever you want. Why don't you just release it? Why don't you just get ahead of the news curve and say this is what's happened? And they said, do you want to know what the answer was to me?
Go on.
The answer was the BMA has undergone a lot of hurt at the moment, and we need to undergo a process of healing. And I said to them, I'm sorry, this is about the NHS, this is about the healthcare of our patients. I pay 30 quid a month for this organisation, and I think I can put out content that's better kind of suited for the public. And they're more concerned about their reputation about this WhatsApp leak than they are about fighting for a health service. And I'm sorry, that's frankly, from my point of view, that's wrong.
Well, I don't imagine anyone will disagree with you, and I like your analysis of what we have to, for the time being, call the willfully, the delightedly ignorant. And you just said, well, I was a doctor, I always presumed that there was a modicum of truth in the newspapers until it actually became the issue that I know so much about. Just give us that Twitter handle again, Kishan, because I suspect you've won a lot of friends.
At Doctor, so DRKISHAN, and then Rees, RWS, all one word, lowercase. Anyone wants to get in touch, I'm more than happy to chat to them. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, James. And also, your support for the junior doctors throughout this has been brilliant. I mean, I've seen Ben in the studio, and Nadia and Lolly, and we couldn't do it without you. The tide is turning. So thank you.
Well, I hope the tide is turning, and I really, really hope, as you do, and as all of the doctors you've mentioned do, that the tide turns before you have to go on this latest round of industrial action. So why would you not believe him? You believe him when he tells you that you're poorly, but you won't believe him when he tells you that the working conditions that are about to be imposed upon him will make us all less safe. It's 10:45.